All right, we're back. This is Unit 4 now. We're getting through them. We got through Unit 2, Unit 3, and now we're on Unit 4. We're going to be talking about inequalities. Those are the greater than or less than signs. So instead of equal signs, we have inequality signs this whole unit. So we're going to go through these notes. We're on day 0 to start. So at the top here, there's this this make sure the variable is on the blank side of the equal sign or inequality sign in this case. And we're going to always make sure that the variable, which could be an x or a y, usually it's an x, or any letter, is always on the left side. And when, oh man, and when we make sure it's on the left side, it's going to be easier to tell where things are shaded, which direction, right or left. So the inequality signs are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So the greater than sign is always open to the left. So that's what the greater than sign looks like. Greater than or equal to is the same exact sign, but it has an equal to sign underneath, or just one of the bars of the equal sign. So not both, but just one horizontal line. Less than sign is open to the right. And the way that I remember the difference between greater than or less than, this less than sign looks like an L for less than. So if it can spell less, and it looks like the L that would spell less, then that's a less than sign. So that's how I keep those two always sharp in my brain. And then less than or equal to would be the same exact sign, but it's got the line underneath. So here's how we graph these. If it's going to be a greater than sign or a less than sign without the equal to, those are open circles. Okay, so open circle. So both of these are open circles. So anything that doesn't have the equal to is open, and that tells you that you don't include that number as part of your answer. That's why we do an open circle. And then the ones with the equal signs, these are closed circles. So both of these are closed. So on the number, we do either an open or a closed circle. Those are our two options. So the open circles don't have the equal sign. The closed circles include the number because it says greater than or equal to that number. So we close it. And now where to shade? Well, as long as the variable is on the left, you can always shade the direction that the arrow is pointing. So these arrows for greater than are pointing to the right. So we're going to shade to the right for both of these. And the arrows for less than are pointed to the left, so they're going to both be shaded to the left. So that's the basics of the open and closed circle, greater than, less than signs. So if we use this information for number 1, number 1, we go to this -5, and we have this circle, because that's what we're dealing with here. So then we got to figure out, is that circle, oopsie, is that circle going to be open or closed? Well, we look to see right here at this inequality sign, and that inequality sign doesn't have an equal to, so it's just going to be kept as this open type circle, so we don't shade it in. And then the way that the arrow is pointing is to the right, so that's the way that we shade this. So we just use our little pencil, we make this a little bit darker here, we draw an arrow at the end, and that's shaded appropriately. So it's an open circle because it doesn't have the equal to, and it's shaded to the right because that's the way the arrow is pointing. So if we take a look at number 2, we go to the number 2, we draw a circle because that's where they're talking about. Now we have to decide if that's open or closed there. So because of this equal sign that's underneath right here, we know that we're going to close this up, make it a closed circle. That means that we include number 2 as our answer as well as all the shaded region. So now the way the arrow is pointing is to the left because it's less than. So we're going to shade this way to the left. We're going to draw an arrow at the end because it goes on forever. So let's talk about our answers. Our answers are anywhere that it's shaded and anywhere there's closed circles. So if it asks a question and it says, is 0 one of our answers for this? Well, if we plugged in 0 for x over here, is 0 less than or equal to 2? Yeah, it's less than 2. So 0 would be a good answer. This is good. -2 would be a good answer. -5, -8, -100 would be a good answer. All those would be good answers because they're within the shaded region. Number 3, we go to the number 5. We put a circle there, and then we got to decide if that circle is open or closed. Well, because it doesn't have an equal sign, we can keep it as an open circle. The arrow is pointing to the left, so that's the way that we shade. And all of our answers are over here. But we don't include 5 as one of our answers because it's not a closed circle. And then the last two, we go to -3. We put a circle there, and we got to decide if that's open or closed. Well, because it has this equal sign underneath right here, we're going to close it down. And then it's shaded to the right because the arrow is pointing to the right. So as long as our variable is on the left side, we can always go the direction with our shading, the direction that the arrow is pointing. If it's like number 5, where the variable is on the right, we're just going to flip everything. So the x is going to go on the left, the 0 is going to go on the right, and then this inequality sign's got to flip as well. So it looks like this. So now we go to the number 0. We put a circle. We got to decide if that circle is open or closed. Well, I see this equal to sign at 0 for this problem, so I'm going to close it down because that means it's part of my answer. And then when I'm not looking at this original one anymore, I'm looking at the new one. The arrow is pointed to the left, so that's the way that I'm shading. So I shade to the left. So that covers all of the basics. Now, with open and closed circles is something that you guys have possibly seen in the past. The thing that our book and that we're going to ask you to do is what's called interval notation when we're dealing with writing our final answer. So our interval notation will have a starting point, and we'll have what's called infinity signs. So if it goes to the left forever, that means it's going to negative infinity. And if it goes to the right forever, that means it's going to positive infinity. So these are called infinity signs. That means they don't stop. The shading just continues. And that's what the arrow is at the end of these problems that we've done. So now our interval notation signs, if we have open circles, that's going to be a bracket or parentheses. So it could be shaped in that direction, or it could be shaped in that direction. So those are two parentheses, either the one opening to the left, one opening to the right. It just depends on which way we're shading. And closed circles would be where we have these brackets. They're squared off. And that means that you're including the number. If it has an arrow that goes to the left forever, we said that that goes to negative infinity because it goes to the negative side forever. And if the arrow goes to the right, that's positive infinity because that means it goes to the right forever, and those numbers get bigger and bigger. So it says write the following in interval notation. So we see an open circle, and it's shaded to the right forever. So this is the type of parenthesis I'm going to use because that's the one that is shaped so it's going to the right. And now I know that it starts at -4, so I'm going to write down -4, comma, and then we write down either positive infinity or negative. So since it goes to the right forever, that's a positive infinity. And the infinity signs always have parentheses next to them. They never have brackets because there's no such thing as making a closed circle at something that goes on forever. This next one, it looks like if we're reading from left to right on number 7, the arrow goes to the left forever. So I know that's negative infinity, and I said that always has a parentheses. And then what number does it go to? Well, it goes all the way up and stops at the number 4. And that one is going to have a bracket because we included that as part of our answer. So that's how we can write our final answers after we graph it. In interval notation is with either parenthesis or bracket, and then infinity signs because it's going to be shaded to the left forever or to the right forever. So let's go to the next page here. So these are asking you to graph and then write an interval notation. So let's do that for each one of these. So for -7, I put a circle there because that's what we're dealing with. Then I got to decide if that's going to be closed or open. And because that doesn't have an equal sign, that's an open circle. And it's shaded to the left according to the way that the arrow is pointing. So we're going to shade it to the left forever. And then to write that in interval notation, it goes to the left forever, so that's negative infinity. There's always a parenthesis on the infinities, comma, and then the number that it stops at in this case would be -7. And then we said that the open circles are always parentheses. So that would be my answer in interval notation. So that's how we do number 1 for graphing and for writing in interval notation. Number 2, we have the 5. We got to decide if that's open or closed. Because it has an equal sign, I know that's closed. I know it's shaded to the right according to that arrow because my variable's in the left. And then I have to write this in interval notation. So I know that it goes 5 comma infinity because it starts at 5 and it goes to the right forever. I know my infinity sign's always a parenthesis. And the 5 in this case, because it's included as our answer, because it's closed circle, that's always a bracket. So that's how we'd write that in interval notation. Let's go to number 3. This one has a circle at -6. It's closed because it has an equal to, and it's shaded to the left because it says less than. So now this is negative infinity with a parenthesis because it's shaded to the left. It goes all the way to -6. That's where it stops on the right side here. And that's closed, so it's a bracket. So that's our answers there. Number 4, I had an open circle at -2. I see that it's shaded to the right forever because that's the way the arrow is pointing. So then that would be a parenthesis at -2, and it goes forever to the right, so that's infinity sign, and that's going to be a parenthesis as well because we never put brackets around our infinity signs. All right, why don't you pause if you understand this and try to do the last 4 on your own, and then you can see if your answers are the same as mine. All right, so hopefully you paused and you're able to work these out. This one's tricky right off the bat from the pause. Sorry, I didn't see it yet. We got to flip all this just like we did on the front. So now this would be an open circle at 4, and it's shaded to the right forever. And that would be 4 to infinity. It's parenthesis always on the infinity sign. This 4 is a parenthesis as well because it's not included as part of our answer. Number 6, we have an open circle at 0. It's shaded to the left according to the way that the arrow is pointed. And then this goes from negative infinity all the way to 0. And that has a parenthesis because it's an open circle. Open circles are parentheses, closed circles are brackets. Oopsie. All right, last 2. Oh, we had 10, my bad. Last 4, I guess. -5 is closed, shaded to the right because that's the way that the arrow is pointed. That would be -5 to infinity. That's got a bracket on it because it's included or it's closed circle. So that would be your answer for 7. For number 8, I'm going to flip all this around so that my variable is on the proper side, which is the left side we said. That means I have to flip this inequality when I flip that around as well. So now we go to -1. We do a closed circle because it doesn't have, or because it has the equal sign underneath. It's pointed to the left, now that the variable is in the left. So that's the way that we shade. Oopsie, that was a bad one. So now we go -infinity to -1. We close that circle up, and we do a parentheses around the -infinity because we never have a bracket around the infinities because you can't say that it equals infinity ever because infinity means it goes on forever. And the last 2, -1.5 somewhere here in the middle, and you just got to be close. This would be an open circle, and it's shaded to the right according to that arrow. So now we go negative 1.5 to infinity. We have parentheses around both of those. And that would be my answer for 9. Then for the last one, 10, we're going to flip this around. So instead of a greater than, we'll have a less than sign when we flip it. So we go to 3.5, which is somewhere in here. It's equal to, so I'm going to color it in as well, close circle. We have an arrow pointing to the left, so that's the way that we're going to shade. So now we have negative infinity to 3.5. So that would be our answer. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions, make sure you